What's up, Man, I just stumbled over my words at the beginning of this. What's up, DTMB? Is that better? Yeah, I figured. But anyways, this is part 2, that little commentary. I split it up as a 26-minute video. I know you guys are like, why is it so long? I know that's exactly what those people sound like when they say that. It's exactly like that. I mean, if it's not, then how else would it sound? I mean, it wouldn't sound like, you know, birds chirping in your ears, you know, on a wonderful Saturday afternoon. No, it sounds like obnoxious, clinging metal on a really bad, hot day when you just lost your job. That's exactly what that sounds like. Anyways, the base of this conversation is more so just, I guess, an opinion, if you will, on how a lot of things have gone down over the past couple months, and it's just an astonishing community, to be honest. I know I probably said this, 10 times, maybe more. Probably not as many times as I say, if you will. So I promise I will try my best not to say that this time. But it's, for the most part, I just don't understand this community sometimes. I don't know where it came from, or what its purpose was originally, or how it changed. I don't know, whatever, or whatever it's supposed to be, whatever it once was, wherever it should be. I guess what I'm getting at is, it's like that conversation I just commented in a thread that Extractor made on Doug forums about how, you know, just the nonsense of people complaining, you know, imperious. When he used that word, I was like, geez, like, he's really busting up the vocabulary. He's get that thesaurus slapped on his desk. He's like, okay, what can I find that makes it sound more intelligent? Nah, he's a good guy, but you know, I'm gonna get back to my post. Let me find it real fast. I'm not prepared. I think the overall deception of this is that, you know, there's no real point to complain about a massive amount of balancing issues. Maybe it's just because I've been a part of so many different games that had so many problems, but you just kind of got over them. Perfect example, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Great game, tons of fun. Rockets were so freaking OP in that game, and people would just, I mean, any game that incorporates rockets, whether it's Quake, Unreal, you know, the bazooka guys from, geez, I'm losing my mind, from the, what the heck is the matter with me, with the Return to Castle Wolfenstein? Anyways, you know, those kind of things, like, it just kind of happens. I think that this generation is overly spoiled, or maybe it's not spoiled, maybe it's just the concept of, they think that all these things are supposed to be 100% perfect. And if it's not perfect, then it's throw a temper tantrum. Which I think is pretty ridiculous for the most part. Because I'm just like, what is the point of doing this? You know, it goes back to that whole nonsense. Because it's like all these people bickering about, you know, the people that wanted the Gmail nerfed. And then now, you know, okay, now they're arguing with the people who want the M9 nerfed. They're like, you can't ask for more things nerfed. I'm like, well, what have you been doing for the past 6 months? You've been bickering and complaining and demanding that somebody give you what you want immediately, and if you don't have that, then you're going to pitch a fit on the forums for 6 days in a row, 24 hours a day. But for the most part, you know, it's just, I don't understand that logic, because in a lot of ways, it's that whole object of, you know, adapt with the situation. Constantly changing the structure of the game is not going to make it easier for anybody. It's just going to constantly make this stupid learning curve. It's like, oh, well, I got to completely learn how to play this game, because every time somebody doesn't like something, they have to go throw a temper tantrum on the forums. And it's just like, this isn't conducive to producing better anything. I mean, that's the same thing with any game. Like, I could look back, you know, Rainbow Six 3. There was a lot of stuff in that game. You know, some of the guns just were kind of, they weren't entirely fair in some ways because of how fast they shot. That game was very close quarters, so it was really easy for people to just, you know, come around the corner. It's called ducking, or duck walking. It's the concept of making a W when you're strafing. It's called duck walking, but people would duck walk around corners and just spray. I don't remember what it was. I mean, probably the MP7. That thing has always been a nuisance in games. But for the most part, I mean, that's kind of how it comes down. Because like people, it was a problem, but I think without us complaining about it, Ubisoft figured it out and ended up fixing it. Now, that's not going to happen with every franchise. It's not going to happen with every game. It's going to come down to, you know, how... I mean, let's just get it straight. Naughty Dog's not the most experienced people when it comes to multiplayer. They just aren't. They haven't had a whole lot of background material to run on. I mean, who knows where half of these guys came from before they originally came to Naughty Dog, and what games they worked on. And just because you worked on a multiplayer game doesn't mean you were good at it, you know? There's a lot of bad multiplayer games out there. I don't know why this popped into my head, but Damnation. If you ever play that game, that's an atrocity. But, you know, there's plenty of people out there that have made multiplayer games, but it doesn't mean that they're good at them. I think it's just that misconception that, oh, Naughty Dog made Uncharted 3 and it's supposed to be 60,000 times better than 2. Well, in a lot of ways, the kooky folks over at Naughty Dog have this idea like, let's do it. You know, it's that, God, it's that. I don't know. I think in a lot of ways it's our own undoing. You know, because we have to lump ourselves into a large category here because we work on this together. But it's that we want new, big, and better. You know, a lot of people want that. You know, there's a select minority of us that come onto the forums or talk about those things that don't want that kind of, you know, all over the place mentality. Let's just do whatever, but it sounds cool. I mean, that's not a lot of people think like that. Well, a lot of people think like that. Not a lot of people don't. And if the forums are such a minority when you think about it, because the game has so many people on it, they just get on and play with their buddies, and they know nothing else outside of that. That's all they know, is just that. And they see, it's the herd mentality, because they see somebody else do something. They're like, you know what? I'm gonna do what that guy did, because it either A, it wasn't fair, and I'm trying to get back at you, and then you kind of just fall in this rut, or B, it's like, hey, that guy did this, and I should do that too. It's the whole idea. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's a Rate of Fire M9 or if it's the FAMAS for Rainbow Six Vegas. I mean, people, oh my gosh, you guys think the Gmail complaints were bad? If you used a FAMAS in Rainbow Six Vegas 1 or 2, you were called a FAMAS dancer, and everybody hated you. It was just like a common misconception that you were a total douche if you played like that. I mean, you could ban weapons in a match because it was dedicated servers, so you could just like get on, start a server, and people just join in on that server. You were the host, so to speak. And, jeez, people would ban that and incendiary grenades, or just all grenades and period. I'm like, this is stupid. It's like, hey, I want to camp around this corner, and you can't find me or nade me out of there because I'm going to hide here. Like, that's the problem with a lot of things, because they just, a lot of times you have to understand, if you're an intelligent individual, you just got to understand that some people just complain to complain, because A, that they're never going to live up to what they think they are, or how good they think they can be. They're just going to be an average, mediocre player. They should just come to realization that's going to happen. You know, in a lot of ways, you can't be some of these players out there because they just have the skill set or the dexterity in their fingers or just the quick reaction to get it done. And that sometimes is a lot of the problems that cause this whole let's bicker about one thing at one time. You know, but it all comes comes back to, you know, it's just like a syndrome. It's like some construed ideal that this multiplayer experience, whether it's this game or something else, always has to be stacked up to something. I mean, I don't even know what you guys are stacking it up to something. It goes back to that whole fiasco with, you know, Max Payne 3 is going to kill Uncharted 3. Well, I think you all know the answer to that one. I mean, it's a Rockstar game. It's multiplayer. I mean, like, let's look back on this for a while. Just think about it. If you've been playing them for a long time, think about it for a second. Anyways, so it kind of goes back to that whole that side note, that side story where these people said that this is going to do this, but they're lumping it up into this. It's just these comparisons and how you do this and that, and I just don't get it. And maybe it's because I come. Another example, like I made a little joke in there, you know, years of dealing with, you know, rocket nades from Quake or FAMAS dancers from Rainbow, or you got bumper jumpers, which back in the day, everybody that used bumper jumper in Halo was considered a cheater because there was some cheap thing that some person could learn how to use their controller like that and you couldn't. Well, I'm sorry that you don't have the dexterity to do that, but it's not their fault. But I made the Atlas joke. You know, Atlas a-holes. Back in MechWarrior, I think it was 2. It was one of the expansion packs. They added this mech. It was called Atlas, and you could put so many freaking rocket pods on this thing. And it was so unfair because you could get hit from like 100 yards away, and there's nothing you could do about it. Even if you had a fast little small mech and you try to outrun those things, nice try, you're toast. And that's this kind of stuff. Like it all goes back to like you have to accommodate to the consumer. You guys got to realize that they're going to have to accommodate to the individual that is going to buy more of these copies. Like let's say in the general, the Naughty Dog forums, the competitive players, and you know the few far in between, you know, YouTube guys that all have the same kind of mentality. You know, we might not agree on everything, but we want a more balanced atmosphere. We want balance. We want it to where it comes down to the user skill. That stuff's not going to happen. I hate to burst your bubble, but not a lot of games are built like that. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of learning. You know, games that have strong learning curves like Gears or League of Legends, you know, or things like that. That just takes a lot more time. And that's the kind of thing you're going to run into in these kind of games. And those are the problems you're going to face if you constantly disassociate that, well, it should always be balanced and fair and, you know, yada yada. But it's not fair on your standards. It has to be fair on everybody's standards. And they have to build these games for the consumer that's going to jump on and play and never comes to those forums, who just learns from what they see in the game. That happens a lot. You know, it's not the Call of Duty syndrome. That happened well before that. You know, I mean, in a lot of ways, Halo kind of did that. I mean, Halo 2, I mean, that was, like I said previously, that was one of the pinnacle games, you know, in my, I guess, gaming or competitive or just whatever career. Well, that kind of started that, you know, being able to, there was such a multitude of types, and it really started separating the gamers. Like, I think you guys just need to realize that pubs are going to be the way they are because the way they are. There's nothing you can do about that. You're going to run into a lot of nonsense, and you can't avoid it. It's more about the consumer base that they have to fit to. It's not so much that look, at the end of the day, Naughty Dog's going to make money. If we want better things for that company, they're going to have to make money. But I think something they should definitely do is follow in the footsteps of Treyarch. I mean, yes, they've made some subs, you know, not everybody likes their titles. I could play the living crap out of playing World at War, but I played it so much. There was something about it that I loved. Black Ops, same thing. There was parts that I hated so much about it, but they did a great job with, you know, not so much separating the communities, but giving both sides of the communities what they wanted. The competitive playlist, awesome time. I mean, it's not as much fun as it used to be. It was just a bunch of tryhards now. I think they're going to go pro someday, but same kind of thing. They can always add a competitive playlist. They can always add some certain kind of playlist into the game that, you know, that or maybe, you know, you never know. Dedicated service could possibly happen. You never know. It could. But I think at the end of the day, the end of the topic, the end of the discussion, it's ironic that I'm talking about this on a Bad Company 2 video, but I think it associates to any game. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I think you just need to realize that, you know, a game is what it is when it reaches a certain point. You know, Battlefield 3 will be Battlefield 3 from this point forward. You know, regardless of the patches that were good and or bad, depending on your reviews of them. Same thing with Uncharted, good and or bad. It is what it is. It's not going to change much. And I think if you just understand and adapt to that, and you're like, you know what, okay, I'm not always going to like what I do in Publix, but at least I can find people, and we can play private matches, and we can do this and that, and we can party stack, as a lot of people like to complain. But you know what? You're going to want to play with the people you trust most. And that's just how it comes. That's what it comes down to. And if you don't like that, then that's your own problem. That's not somebody else's problem, and you don't push that off on them. It's the same thing of, hey, this person does this in this game, and I can't do that. It's not fair. Oh, nerf him. It's like, no, stop it. There's just going to be people better than you. It's going to happen. The sooner you learn it, the easier it'll become, and you can focus on other parts of your game that are a lot more important than blaming other people. And you'll make yourself better over time. It's just adapting with that. It's changing. You know, this culture, this industry has changed a lot over the past 10 years. And, you know, some for good and some for bad, but you just got to adapt with it. But overall, I might talk about this again in the future. I might bring it back up. It was just a small little thing I wanted to talk about. I probably lost a bunch of people. What the hell are we talking about? But I think overall I just wanted to, you know, kind of get it out there and kind of lay it on the ground and give my basis of why I feel this way. But overall, hope you guys enjoyed the Bad Company 2 videos, Battlefield 3 videos in the future. I got an Uncharted 2 one coming up here, and I'll go back to UC3 later this week because I got some stuff to cover. And I will be doing a coaching series. I'm going to coach up on one of my games. But other than that, this is Squid. Hope you guys enjoy this, and peace.